to the channel. It is your girl Alana Simone. So first of all, I wanted to welcome you guys in. I hope and pray that you're having an amazing day. So today we're going to be talking about when in doubt, ask God. And so what do I mean by this? I think oftentimes, especially us, it could be us being young, it could just be anybody in general. Sometimes we get to a point in life where we're just kind of like, we need answers, but we just don't know which direction to take. We may ask our friends about their opinion on different stuff. We may ask our parents about different opinions on stuff. We may ask people that, we entrust, maybe like spiritual mentors or different stuff like that, about, what we should do in our life, which is good. You should have people that you can confide in and really, bring up, topics or questions about, especially when you're trying to make big decisions in your life. And so one of the biggest things that has helped me is when I'm in doubt, I usually ask God. Yes, I ask my parents, or like even maybe a spiritual mentor that I have in my life. But at the end of the day, I always refer back to God in anything that I do, because I know that He knows what's best for me, and I know that He knows the plans He has for my life. And I know that He hasn't failed in my life before, so I know He's not going to start failing now with being able to provide answers to me on my next steps in this journey in life. And so anything that I do, I petition God about it, whether that pertains to, me wanting to be married, or even I shared my story of me moving. I invite God into that. My next steps as far as like where I'm working now, what I'm going to be doing in the future, what else I should be doing. I make sure I invite God into each and every aspect of my life, area of my life, because it's important. And so like for me, that has really helped. And so I just encourage people to know that He's there to ask, especially in the moments that we feel doubt, we feel worried. And sometimes like it just depends on the type of relationship you have with God. I feel like God can speak to anybody that He chooses to, but you can really start to hear His voice the more time you spend with Him, and the more time that you really acknowledge Him in your life. So to me, every single day I'm in communication with God. I make Him a priority in my life. And so it has become easier for me to be able to hear Him speak to me, because I eliminate distractions. I don't, fill my mind with a bunch of voices and people. Like I don't do that. So I have like a very clear mind to be able to receive and hear from God. And He can speak to people in many different ways. He can speak to people in visions. He can speak to people in dreams. He can speak to people as an audible voice. He can speak to people, through like prophets, prophetess, spirit, like pastors, anything. Like He can speak to you in many different ways. So don't ever limit the ways that God can speak to you in your life. And so for me, He speaks to me in dreams, visions, audible, through people. Like it's just amazing the way He speaks to me. And so yeah, it's very interesting. But knowing that it's important. I think that oftentimes, especially young people, we struggle with being able to hear from God. And I think oftentimes the struggle is because we're not being intentional with our time with Him and making our relationship with Him a priority in our life. We can't hear from somebody that we only talk to maybe once a year. You know what I'm saying? So we're like expecting to hear God's voice, and then when we ask Him something, but when we don't hear nothing, then we're like, oh, He's not real. He don't really care. I can't hear from God. Then you go back doing the same thing, asking your same friends who in a whole bunch of mess that don't got no direction for their life, about what you should do for your life. So that's really the big thing that we have to work on, is making sure that we are spending time with God to be able to hear from Him. So when we are in situations that we feel doubt, we are in situations where we don't have the answers, where we need next directions in our life, we can be able to hear and receive from Him, because we invited Him and created a space in our life to be able to have that happen. So know that anybody can be able to hear from God. It's just being intentional in the times, where, we have free time or different stuff to be able to communicate with him so that a conversation can start happening, so that he can start speaking to you, and you can start receiving from him, and get direction from him. So it's not like, oh, God speaks to you, but he doesn't speak to me. No, he can excuse me, he can speak to any of us. It's just the time you spend with him. Like, that's just anything. Like, how do you build a relationship with somebody? You spend time with them, you grow with them, you listen to them, right? So that's just how it goes. That's what happens for me. So it's like, people will look at me like, especially being young, like people like to throw age and stuff. How do you, like, trying to figure out how I hear from God? Is because I'm intentional with it. I make him a priority in my life. It's important to me. So therefore, it becomes a part of my life. So like, people will be like, I will have full conversation with God during the day, like a regular person, like I'm just talking like now. And, we have like conversation back and forth, and people will be like, and I tell people about different stuff, like, yeah, I said this to God and he said this back to me, and they're like, what? And I'm like, it's okay. You might think I'm crazy, but I'm really not crazy, but this is what he said. And they're like, okay. But I know people will be like, how in the world does she hear from God? And it's just because I'm intentional, and I really cultivate and create our relationship to be that way. So I don't have to be in a church building to hear from him. I don't have to be at a special event to hear from him. Yes, those places are places to be able to hear from him, but I could be in the grocery store and he talked to me. Like, that's just how it is. Because if I'm out here doing missions and trying to reach and touch people, just like how Jesus did, he wasn't just stuck into being in a church. I have to be able to hear God's voice, right? If I'm in church or not, if I'm at a spiritual event or not, I have to be able to hear God's voice at any given moment. I could be at a coffee shop, I could be at the grocery store, I could be at the car wash. It doesn't matter. You need to get to a point to where you can hear God in every place. Because why? That's the posture you want to be in, because then he can use you in different ways. You can now reach people that you could never maybe reach in a church because they felt too dirty to come to a church. They felt too unworthy to come to a church. But you see them in a grocery store and you have a relationship with God, and to now be able to hear from him, and you can now receive a word to be able to encourage and speak to that person that could have never been reached if you would have just stayed stuck in a church, or you would have just stayed stuck in a group. I'm not saying nothing wrong with those places, because they're important and they create community, but we have to open our mind to get outside of the box that people put God in, because he's outside of a box. He's everywhere. So we should be everywhere, being able to hear from him and minister to people in a powerful way. Like, it doesn't matter. So anyway, I say all this to say, just, it's important to ask God for help in things. It's important, especially when you're in doubt. Ask God if you should be out here dating right now. Your parents might say, oh yeah, you're young, go out here, live your life. But God could be calling you and having a different plan for your life and wanting you to spend more time with him, so that when you do decide to go out and date people or something like that, you're prepared and ready for that. He could work on some things within you. He could grow your character. He can mature you as a person before you go out here and just make dumb decisions, basically, because you think it's what you're supposed to do, instead of just asking the one who knows what you're supposed to do and knows the plans that he has for your life, so that he can create a path that will bring you more success than more misery, basically. Because a lot of times we get into things that we really had no business getting into, because we just asked our friend, or we asked people around us in our life that they didn't really have direction, or they didn't really know, so we just went with what they say. Then we get ourselves in situations that we shouldn't even got ourselves in. And now when you get yourself in a situation that you shouldn't have got yourself in, now you got to figure out a way to get yourself out, because sometimes it can be very bad situations. So we don't want to continue to do that when Like, when you know better, you should do better. So now you know that you can reach out to God when in doubt, and to be able to hear from God is inviting him into your life, spending more time with him. That could be reading your Bible, that could be talking to him, because prayer is just talking to God. It's talking to him, expressing how you feel, listening to praise and worship music, journaling, whatever makes you feel most comfortable, going to a park and just dancing around and just, inviting him in that way. Like, whatever you want to do that. Like, whatever makes you feel more comfortable, because your relationship with him should be specific for you. Like, it's different. And that's the beauty of it. And start the relationship with him. Appreciate the relationship with him. Make it a priority. And that's when things in your life can become easier. That's when you can start hearing him more. And when you get faced with situations and have to make big decisions, or just decisions that may give you anxiety or worry, you can bring it to him and he'll be able to help you along your way. So be encouraged today. Know that when in doubt, God is available to be able to help you through different things in your life, whatever life brings, whatever challenges, whatever direction changes, whatever. God is there. He remains the same through it all. So be in communication with him, not only today, but every single day. And I pray that it just helps you along your journey in life become easier. So you guys, I thank you so much for being here, and I will see you guys in the next video.